Hi everybody, welcome to a very special episode of the Quick Resume podcast, except this one isn't really a podcast. We're just doing an Xbox Game Studios tier list, and then the podcasty stuff will come afterwards. So if you're here to just look at an Xbox Game Studios tier list from two very informative fellas, well, we're here to do that for you. If you haven't been here before, my name's Deck.
And my name is Tim.
And we are the QRP, Quick Resume Podcast, that stands for. So, as I say, I'm going to get some timestamps up, but we're going to do this tier list together. And then if you want to hear like the news roundup for this week, then that'll be afterwards. But other than that, thanks for coming. So, hopefully on screen, you should see an S, an A, a B, a C, a D, and an unknown tier. All of the studios we've got here on the tier maker in front of us include the Xbox Game Studios, including publishing, the Bethesda Game Studios, and the Activision-Blizzard King. Now, we're well aware that deal hasn't closed, so we will look like right muppets if that deal doesn't go through. But we're going to do it anyway, just for fun, because things might change. And the purpose of doing it now is that we can re-rate after the showcase coming up in a couple of weeks at some point. You know, we can see how things change. I thought that might be fun. That sounds very fun, doesn't it, Tim?
It sounds extremely fun. That's why I'm here for the fun.
That's it for a good time. Okay, well, let's get cracking then. So we have to start, and the weird thing is that we have to start, Tim, at maybe the hardest one on this entire list, which is 343 Industries. 343. In case you don't know, Tim, most known for taking over Halo after Bungie left. Most recently with Halo Infinite, sitting on an 87 Metacritic, and I think OpenCritic as well. And before that, obviously, Master Chief Collection. I think they partnered for Halo Wars 2 and Halo Wars Definitive Edition. Obviously, Halo 5, Halo 4, and then they had a couple of mobile games earlier on, Spartan Assault and stuff. So, What are your initial thoughts here? 343. Where are they going? Are they a D tier for Tim, or are they an A tier for Tim? What do you think?
I think taking on an IP like Halo is obviously quite the task, especially when you inherit it after Halo 3 from Bungie. Overall, I have a pretty solid opinion on 343. I think they've taken the franchise in good directions. Sure, 4 and 5 went brilliant, but they tried to establish a wider universe. They gave Chief a bit more of a personality and all that sort of stuff, and he actually had lines. I don't know. I think they're pretty good, and obviously
but a lot of people don't like that.
Well, they just prefer.
They like him silent.
I don't know. I like my character to have a little bit. Like, we've got a Doom guy for that, and we'll get to that. But we've got a Doom guy for that silent, badass protagonist. I think it's cool for Chief to have a little bit of a personality, right? And it's still not much. Let's be honest. He's just kind of cool and stoic, and but yeah, I think overall they're pretty solid. And Halo Infinite's obviously a bop. In terms of what they've done, like gameplay wise, catering to old school and new Halo fans. Obviously, got the most content in the world. I'd probably slot them in. I wish there was like a B plus.
Moustache rub.
I wish there was like a B plus, but I think I'm gonna chuck him in with the thought of Halo Infinite as like a final product, when it actually, let's think of it as a final, when it comes out as a final product and stuff like that with Forge and all the multiplayer elements and stuff like that. I think I'd chuck them in A tier.
Oh, yeah, because I was thinking low A, like A minus, maybe B plus.
That's what I was saying. I wish there was like a B plus tier.
But I mean, we can always put them at the top of B. But I think it will change maybe as we. Because I think it's almost a bit unfair to say, like, to put them into a place based on where the game is going to be, because we don't ultimately know that. And when we do a re-rating, then we can move them up.
I guess so.
And I think that is one of a lot of things that people will say about 343. And as more and more news is coming out about this studio, it seems that a lot of the problems that studio has is because of Microsoft's short-term contract shit that they have going on. That they have people for 6-month contracts on rolling periods, and people are just no, I don't want to be roped into that. So they have, it slows a lot of stuff down, and loads of problems with that. So nonetheless, not trying to pawn responsibility off onto Microsoft, but 343 always release a game with a compromise. That is like a significant compromise. And it's a damn shame. Like, Infinite Launch was fantastic, but it's everything after that that's been like a big struggle. Other two games, the rest is history. Halo 4 had a good story for the majority of people. Multiplayer fell flat. Halo 5 was the inverse. So I guess, yeah, I would put them in A-, I think, simply because Halo Infinite did a lot for me. I really thought the campaign was pretty excellent. I know it has its critics, but I'm still playing it today. And the multiplayer, like the service aspect has been bad. Like, there's no way around it. It has been bad. Not dreadful, but it has been bad. So for me, it would be an A-. I don't know how anybody else would feel about that. But if there's any rating in here that's going to get us death threats, Tim, it's going to be this one.
It's this one. Yeah, it's this one. All right, so so we can agree that it goes into A tier, and then we can just slot it like later, rank it with other studios in A tier as well. So I guess for those looking, so I guess we'll go from, let's say we have like 5 things in like A tier, for example. The one on the leftmost is considered the top of A tier, and then descending downwards, sort of thing. That's how we'll do it. But for now, let's chuck it in A tier.
Yeah, that sounds good to me. I think that's a good one. All right, and just so we're aware, we have 32 studios to go through here. So
buckle in.
It's quite the task. Yeah. Hopefully they don't acquire any more studios. Otherwise, this is going to be increasingly difficult over the years.
Yeah.
Okay, next up, Coalition. Oh, Coalition. This is a toughie for me because Coalition are very good. Coalition, I have never made a bad game. They've never. There's always some controversy in the purist fan base of how they handle some of the mechanics in the game, like really obscure stuff. Like, I remember people being upset about like how Nasher works, wall bouncing. But for your casual player, I don't think they've ever really had a big blunder on the same scale that 343 has with Halo.
No.
And my only reservation about the Coalition is that they play it too safe. Yes. That's my only reservation. They haven't had I think they're capable. I think they have the chops for it, but they just haven't had like a cultural hit yet, which I think is a damn shame. What do you think?
Yeah, I think they're a studio that they kind of, I don't know if they're a little bit under the hammer with their creative freedom and stuff like that. So they're just like, make a Gears game, make it Gears, like don't do anything too spicy with it. So I feel like they're having their wings clipped a little bit. But like you said, they haven't made a bad game. And in all honesty, I thought Gears 5 campaign was incredible. I did really enjoy it. Yeah, like both visually, story, characters, and everything. And considering the main sort of protagonist was someone new introduced in 4, right? To actually have that sort of bond with the character and actually think it's one of the best campaigns in the series is pretty impressive, considering you're following from someone like Marcus Phoenix, right? So I think they've done exactly, yeah. So I think they've done a pretty good job early and even their latest projects. Like you said, they just kind of play it safe though. It'd be interesting to see a project that they do a little bit out of their comfort zone.
And that you can see in their work that they have tried, and ignoring the other titles like Gears Tactics, who they can't remember who they partnered with for it, and Hivebusters. Ignoring them, even in Gears 5, there were some efforts to try and expand the experience a bit. They had the escape mode, but just never really seemed to take off. They expanded the Horde mode, and there was something else I'm missing as well. Something else I'm missing about Gears 5 that I can't remember. But yeah, I agree. Nonetheless, is it in the campaign or was it just in Escape where they had the ability? The characters had ultimates, special moves, didn't they? Like the knife and the shield.
Class.
That was it.
That was Horde.
Yeah, but also so it was both. I know it wasn't the one in Horde wasn't the same as the one in Escape. There's just like basic like special moves, but then you're right. Yeah, Horde had like 14 like classes, like a card system for the classes. Like they really expanded that to make it more like kind of exciting. And I only played it once or twice, but I did like it. I've just kind of gotten a bit tired of Horde modes. But so you can see that there's kind of like they're like reaching a little bit to try and like explore, but they just haven't gone far enough, I think, for the most majority of people. And now maybe with Rod Ferguson, who was the head of all of these Gears projects, left a couple of years back, just after Gears 5 or just before Gears 5. He's now at Blizzard, funnily enough. Maybe now we'll see some bigger changes in the Gears universe, but I guess all of this culminates with the question, you know, with Gears Tactics considered, Gears 5 Hive Busters, a Gears 6 in the works, and we know a second smaller Unreal Engine 5 project that's supposedly a new IP. Where do we put them in this tier list?
Yeah, it's tough.
My gut is S-. I think the Coalition is one of Xbox's best studios. But they just haven't had a chance to like fully prove, like fully get that mass appeal, because their games are very critically like well received, but the commercial success, like Gears, is just falling out of the public eye. But I think you slap a new coat of paint on that and everyone loves it, you know.
Yeah, exactly. And yeah, they have some new projects in the works as well for the future, like you said. Yeah, I mean, I'm fluttering between chucking them in between S and A. So I think in my eyes, they're probably a little bit better than 343 in terms of what they've done, at least so far, in terms of quality and consistency.
No, I agree.
So I think, let's chuck them in S. I think S is a good shout.
I wholeheartedly agree, and you know, this Coalition will be an interesting one to revisit in like 6 months, a year's time. You know, maybe like see how much excitement gets drummed up for Gears 6. Is it more of the same? How about that new IP or that new game? Is there we spoke about the possibility of a Marcus Phoenix collection, right? You know, is that like drumming up excitement? Is that looking, you know, is that leading nicely into their next title? So watch this space.
Yeah.
Okay. Turn 10 Studios. Turn 10, responsible for Forza Motorsport, not Forza Horizon series.
So the driving sim series.
Yeah, driving sim. Founded in 2001. It's been one of Xbox's oldest first-party studios, like actual first-party. Playground were acquired back in 2018, who Playground are responsible for Forza Horizon. So I'm just looking at the list of their games made. Forza Motorsport, Forza Motorsport 2, Forza Motorsport 3, Forza Motorsport 4. It's just that all the way down to Forza Motorsport 7, and we are of course expecting a Forza Motorsport to be announced at the showcase this year, with a possible announcement of Forza Motorsport 8 maybe this year, to help Xbox pick up the Sahara of a year. And you know, looking at these meta scores as well, 92, 90, 92, 91.
Yeah.
Forza,
they're bangers.
79, 87, 86. So yes, bit of a drop off in recent years, actually, which is a bit surprising, but we know that they are like revamping their whole engine. They've had more times between 7 and 8 in the most recent one than they have any other sequel so far. So we are not huge driving guys, especially not driving sim guys. So, you know, this is going to be hard for us to place truthfully.
I think we just got to base this one we got to place, I think, just based off Metascore and pedigree and just what their work has been, right? Rather than like a personal like connection. And I mean, based on that, I feel like you got to chuck them in S, right?
I mean, I have I've played Forza Motorsport games, and you know I never have played them enough to really be able to like properly analyze it, you know. But I mean, I think you're right. I mean, these guys make some incredibly consistent games. I can't think of any reason to not put them in S. I'm happy to put turn 10 in S. I don't have much else to add, to be honest.
They just consistently whack out a 90 plus open critic game, driving sim game, like every single time, with pretty much every single installment. So it's pretty hard to chuck them, to put them anywhere below S, in my opinion. And I'd probably, again, I personally prefer the Coalition, but I'd probably put them ahead of Coalition and S tier as well.
Oh, really? I've put them behind for now, but let's not get caught too much in the sauce for that, just simply because if we start comparing, like, by the time we get to the end of this and we're like, oh, well, they're not higher than them, like, we're moving everyone around. So,
we'll just do like a roundup at the end and make any jig arounds if we need to.
I think that sounds good.
Yeah, let's do that.
Okay, lovely. Rare. Oh, this is a good one. Oh.
Yeah.
Okay. So this
You're
is hard.
a big rare boy.
I am a rare boy. I am a rare boy. I don't think I'm a super rare boy. I just in concept really love Sea of Thieves. That's pretty much it. Like I was, a lot of their
Battletoads was fun too. The new
Battletoads was fun. Yeah, I even wrote a mini review of that on Twitter back when we played it. And we came away with blood pressure at double at what it should have been. And obviously, I think it's worth mentioning a lot of Rare's golden era was before our times. We're 94 kids, so the original Killer Instinct came out in 94. So I guess if we think about from the Xbox One generation, I mean, I even guess from the 360 as well. Like we played 360, right? Cameo, Perfect Dark Zero, Viva Pinata, Trouble in Paradise, Banjo-Kazooie, Nuts and Bolts. Let's go. Then we've got Kinect Sports, whatever that was, 3 of them.
There were 3?
There's Kinect Sports Season 2, which came out the year after the original release, and then Kinect Sports Rivals 3 years after Season 2.
Jesus.
And none of them got above 73.
Yeah, they got progressively worse with each release. Okay.
And then, obviously, in most recent years, we had Rare Replay, which I'm not sure is fair to, give the credit to New Rare for that, but, whatever. Sea of Thieves, which, we all know the story of that, launched very, very content light, good foundations, good bones, and they've steadily improved on it for free, pretty much. With lots of different ideas, some failures, some successes, and then, like you said, Battletoads in 2020. Ooh, I'm struggling.
I like these guys. I feel like they make fun, creative games. I feel like they go outside the box with a lot of their stuff as well. Like they've made shooters, they've made your classic platformers and collectible games like Banjo-Kazooie and Conkers. And Conkers was a sort of an adult game, right? Which was kind of weird to do with that kind of mascot. I feel like they go outside the box a little bit with what they do. And obviously there's a new Perfect Dark coming out as well, right? So
there is, but that's the initiative.
Okay, all right.
They're working on Everwild, but I suppose before we start answering this question, we need to clarify if we're talking about new Rare or old Rare.
I think I'm talking about Rare as a whole, right? I experienced the Banjo-Kazooie games, even though they came out when I was 3. I still played them when I was a kid, with my brothers and stuff. I suppose
it's just difficult because I don't think that's going to be reflective of games going forward, simply because Rare were god tier. They would be in Triple S above everyone else but if we factor it all together, I guess that does drag it down a bit. So it just depends what we're talking about.
I guess considering, like you said, we did miss their golden age. Fine, let's do new Rare then, because we're boomers.
We're little millennials. So let's
do that.
So if we do 360 era onwards, so judging by those, so what we're looking at, what's that, 2005-ish? So Cameo, you played Cameo Elements of Power, didn't you? You had that.
I did a little bit, yeah. And I have fondish memories of it. Again, I think back at it, and I'm not like, oh, that's a game. But it was decent. It wasn't bad. Higher score than I thought it was. 79, basically an 8 out of 10. I didn't think it did that well critically, but.
So I guess we're really looking at then, in early 2000s, Cameo, Perfect Dark Zero, Viva Pinata, which was a cultural hit.
Yeah,
both of them.
Yeah,
Banjo-Kazooie was, Nuts and Bolts was.
I liked it.
High profile.
Yeah, I know it wasn't like loved by
I
a
liked
lot
it
of
as
the
well.
community, but I personally liked it.
I think that game's done a real turnaround in popularity because Banjo-Kazooie's been such a dormant IP for so long that people are like, actually, on its own two legs, Nuts and Bolts is kind of good.
Yeah, it wasn't bad at all.
It's just funny to take the series in that direction. I remember seeing the trailer for that back in the day. Actually, he's like a white background and they like kick open the door and it's like the trailer makes it look like a normal Banjo-Kazooie game when it's first announced,
which I think is like the like a lot of the outrage started from that. I think
such a bait.
But yeah, and then obviously we're big Sea of Thieves. I mean, obviously Connect Sports. I think we can just. That's definitely going to pull it down. I don't think those were hits, to be honest. And I think that was a lot to do with the times and the hardware, not necessarily them. But still, regardless, critically they weren't great. I don't think they sold fantastic. And then, I mean, we all know how the Connect went. It's literally just got binned. So, and Rare Replay. I don't know if we can even include that. And then we're big Sea of Thieves fans, so that really bumps it up, at least in my eyes. And I think looking at the Sea of Thieves score as well, where it's like EA got like a 69 or whatever on Metacritic, I don't think that's a fair reflection on what it is now. So Sea of Thieves is astronomically better than what it was now. It's a solid 8 out of 10 now, like minimum, I think.
Yeah, but a lot of re-reviews I've seen, there's like 3 or 4 out there, have put it at an 8 or an 8.5. So but I don't know. There's something, because like by the sounds of that we're talking here, I can feel us sort of homing in on an A or a high B, and there's something keeping me back from putting it in A.
Yeah, I'm totally with you. I'm going actually for a high B.
Yeah,
that's where my heart is telling me to put it right now.
Yeah, and it's just I don't know. It just doesn't, because some people are going to be mad that we're putting 343 above Rare only by a little bit, but
we're doing it. It's a personal thing as well. Like you said, we weren't around for their golden years. I appreciate what they've done in their golden years, and I have played some of that stuff, but we can only review it based on sort of what we've experienced growing up gaming as well.
And it is also like, as much as we say, like Sea of Thieves was panned a bit at launch, it's turned into, and obviously it's turned into Xbox's most successful IP for the last generation. But it is still valid to criticize that launch, even if it was part of the business model. Like they it was one of those things where it was like community development. A lot of the things that are in the game at the moment would not have happened if they had kept the game in the oven for another year or two. So there's that. But at the same time, like Everwild is their new project, and we know that that's having a bit of problems behind the scenes. But if that comes out and the same thing happens, like where it launches like that, like, I don't know, that and that's kind of holding me back a bit. Like they might try and do the same thing, and it's like I don't think you can do that in this day and age.
Yeah, you can't be a studio that just relies on releasing games and then making them good 2 or 3 years later.
It's just too risky. It's just like games do get away with it, and I know you're backed by Xbox and Microsoft, but like Sea of Thieves is stained permanently, and that sucks. Like a lot of people will still like think of that game, and they're like, nothing in it,
Yeah.
And it's been 4 years, so I think B+. Are we in agreement?
We are.
Awesome.
Yeah, but there is no B+, so B. High B.
That's right, yeah. Okay, we got Mojang next. The studio that there's like a strange child of Xbox and Microsoft.
Yeah, sometimes I forget like we even have Mojang, I'm going to be honest. Because we kind of just bought them, and then they're still just Minecraft, right? Like,
yeah. It's just not leveraged at all. It's so weird to me. I don't know. They did
Dungeons, right? But
they did Dungeons, yeah, and then that's it. They are the Minecraft studio. Oh, they did Cobalt. Don't forget about Cobalt. That's an Xbox PC exclusive. That is.
God, I love me some Cobalt.
I bought that game, but I never played it.
Yeah.
So what have we got here? We've obviously got Minecraft on PC with a Metacritic of 93. Let's go.
Yeah.
Cobalt in 2016, Minecraft Earth in 2019. Is that still a thing? It's like a mobile, AR game.
Yeah.
Build shit in real life. I don't see the point, but I don't know if that's still a thing.
I don't think so.
And then obviously Minecraft Dungeons, which came out to like decent review scores. Metacritic's are here like 74.
Sevens, yeah, it's pretty decent.
And there's been loads of DLCs for that game since, like micro deal, like £3 a pop, and they've updated the base game loads and loads and loads. And there's a nice level of like polish to. I'm surprised those scores are actually that low, to be honest, because it's quite. Minecraft Dungeons has a very like Blizzard feel to it. Do you know what I mean? It's quite. It's very like child friendly, but it's very like it just works and runs very very cleanly and well. I don't know.
Yeah, it performs well and it looks great. I just think it didn't hit the nail on the head when it was trying to make that genre. It was trying to simplify that genre of gaming when that genre just doesn't work simplified. Like it is supposed to be multi-layered. It is supposed to be really, calculating your DPS and all this and figuring out the best build. It is supposed to be a really in-depth sort of genre. And I respect what they tried to do with it, but I just don't think it quite hit the nail on the head.
It's so hard to place Mojang simply because Minecraft is Minecraft and it continues to be the biggest game in the world, which is mental.
I mean, I think we should base it on what Xbox has done with it so far and what it's brought to Xbox. I like you said, I just forget it's kind of a studio. Sometimes I just feel like they're still just independent, and we're rating it based on like. In all honesty, I'm kind of thinking B or something like that. They can't just ride off 2011 Minecraft for their entire life.
Yeah, that's it. Like they're like, are they capable of making another Minecraft with the same cultural impact as Minecraft? Like, I doubt it.
No.
Like Cobalt, Cobalt didn't do it, did it?
No. They'll never ever make another Minecraft. It's like Blizzard will never ever make another Overwatch, with the same hit and stuff like that. You can sort of, I don't know. I think Blizzard could. Of that genre.
I just think it's more that Minecraft started out as like a single person project, and like the logistics and the process that Mojang has changed so much over the last decade, even 2 decades, with what's his face? What's the guy's name who developed?
The man who wears a fedora and stuff.
Yeah, they got the man who wears a fedora and says like semi-racist, like homophobic remarks on Twitter. Yeah. Marcus Pearson? No, is that the new one? I can't remember. Anyway, yeah, you're absolutely right. Like, it's hard to keep just saying, "Oh, you made like Minecraft that one time," and like I don't like the same environment that Minecraft was originally cultivated in is not the same environment that Mojang is in now, and I guess that's why it's difficult to place them. But I'm in agreement with you. I'm thinking B here.
Yeah, I'm thinking B too.
They're sitting on an obviously incredible IP with an incredible gold mine, but they've yet to do anything. And Minecraft Dungeons is like a B tier game. Maybe A exactly. As it continues to grow, but judging by that recent work, I think that's right in line with the rest of the discussion. So yeah, let's go B then.
Agreed.
Lovely. Okay, we've got Playground Games up next. Esther?
Yeah. I literally don't. I agree. They don't make bad games. It's Horizon, right? Forza Horizons are always bangers. Like they're so wide, so mass appeal, so casual, but also appeal to the hardcore, almost driving sim audience at the same time. And they just smash it every single time. I'm pretty sure every single Forza Horizon has just gotten better
Yeah.
with every
But
game.
how do you do that? How can you keep outdoing yourself in that one genre?
It's mental. So yeah,
and
I just think we love them straight into test.
Yeah, I think so. So just straight up swish it in. I just think it's like, even like in concept, nobody else is trying to do what Forza Horizon is doing. I don't think. Like,
it's just
an
impossible.
Open world, festival-based racing.
Oh, well, no,
discovery.
you had like The Crew, didn't you, and stuff like that for PlayStation.
Was that the same sort of thing? Was it?
It was like an open world drive with your friends in a shared world. Yeah.
Right.
But it just couldn't do it. It's David versus Goliath, right? I mean, I know in that context David ends up winning, but not in this one.
Not in this one.
And then also you got to bear in mind they're also working on Fable, and I think that's pretty exciting, right? I'm not going to bump them up based on that, but it's an exciting prospect that they're going into something different too.
It is, and there's like, it's going to be like the Coalition. I think this is going to be another interesting one to watch, because if Fable comes out and it's kind of mid, well, that changes things, because now they're a one-trick pony studio, you know, exactly. which is really harsh, because obviously they make like a lot of fantastic games like repeatedly. But if they can pull off Fable to like 80 plus, 85 plus, you know, anything higher than that is like god tier. But being realistic, that makes them like, holy, we're looking at a very premium studio here. Which we're very lucky to have. Playground games are. I'm going to put them right at the top of this. Actually, if you think that's okay, I'm going to put them above Coalition.
I've done the same.
Even though we don't play. Yeah, even if we don't play these sort of games, I can't help but get a little bit excited when there's like conversation going on about where the next Horizon is going to be. I've even put like 10 hours into Forza Horizon 5, and these are just not my cups of tea, but you just can't help but like driving around Mexico or the UK or Australia. You know, do you know what I mean? It's something to witness and behold. It's a good technical showcase as well.
Yes, absolutely. Yeah.
Rad. Ninja Theory up next. Founded in 2004, in sort of the 360 era. Well, I guess their list of games isn't that long, so they've got like Kung Fu Chaos in 2003, Heavenly Sword, which was a PlayStation exclusive at the time, Enslaved, Odyssey to the West, the DMC, Devil May Cry, like follow-ups.
Yeah.
And then obviously their breakout hit was Hellblade, Senua's Saga, arguably their breakout hit, and then more recently, upsettingly, Bleeding Edge, which was a bit of a failed project, unfortunately. So, Ninja Theory is like, you want to place Ninja Theory higher than they probably deserve. That's the thing.
Yeah.
Because Hellblade is one of the most impactful games, probably one of the best games I've ever played. But I can recognize from this list that the consistency just isn't there that they're going to put out. Yeah, they're going to put out Hellblade every time. So what do you think?
Yeah, I agree. I think they're a very hit and miss studio. I don't think I think Bleeding Edge is their only like miss.
Real flop. Yeah.
Like miss, right?
Yeah.
You know, the game literally like just stopped. It just stopped like working on it after like 6 months or something of release.
Yeah, they added one character and that was it. I think.
Yeah, it was a proper miss, that one. The DMCs, although they reviewed well, quite critically, I think didn't really do the fan base justice, and I think a lot of people were quite annoyed. I personally still enjoyed DMC, but I know a lot of people were pretty annoyed at the changes they made to like Dante and the direction they took and all that.
But did you like them to the same level that you liked the previous Devil May Cries, or are they like a tier below? Right?
No, they're a tier below. And like, don't get me wrong, like it was solely based on like a visual and design perspective. Like the way the game played was fantastic. Like I actually thought that they nailed combat better, in fact, than the other DMC games. But just story and just like character design and stuff like that, it just fell pretty short compared to the others. So yeah, and then obviously Enslaved, again, a bit of a bit of a meh, just a bit mid, right?
Well, I don't know. On 360, it had quite high scores. It's on the consoles, it had high scores, like low 80s. A lot of people I know I never played it, but I know a lot of people think of that as like their childhood game sort of thing, you know?
Okay. Yeah, I mean, we always thought of it as like a. Pardon me. God, this show's so boring.
Tim is in C tier.
No, I think a part of me, I always saw this as kind of like an adult Jack and Daxter game. Weirdly enough, I don't know why.
Yeah, it did look a bit like that, didn't it? Yeah, I'm with you there.
Yeah, but it was fine. You know, I see it kind of mid. But yeah, it did hit like 80s and stuff like that. So, and then Hellblade is obviously just pretty phenomenal and took the world by storm. I think a little bit. Even if the reviews don't, you know, actually, you know, you got like an 80 and 81 and stuff like that in there. Like, still great reviews, but not mind-blowing. I just feel like it was like a bit of a cult hit outside of critics.
Yeah, exactly.
More so.
Like, I've got friends and like Beth who aren't really gamers, who I've like recommended to play this game, like based just on concept alone, and they've played it and come away like that's one of the best like experiences I've ever had.
Yeah.
So I think there is something to be said about how topical it is. You know, it's obviously around mental health, and the studio have a very big mental health projects going on in the form of Project Insight, they call it. So there's a lot to respect about the studio and what they're doing. You know, they're partnering with like neuroscientists and psychologists as well for their games, for like accuracy and things like that. But the actual output, and obviously, and we've seen how Hellblade 2 Xenoblade Saga looks. You know, it's one of the best looking games I've ever seen.
Yeah.
And the real drawback to the first Hellblade that arguably brought the scores down is that people thought the combat was too simple. I understand the criticism, but I'm not necessarily on the same page, so that's all fine. So I suppose, and I guess the final angle to that is that Ninja Theory are one of these few studios who are like really pushing for hyper visuals, you know, like high, and they like scan everything in, you know. Anything that like you go back and play Hellblade, which is a 2017 game, it still looks like unbelievable. So it puts them, you know, it becomes another difficult placement. But I would really like to put them in A-, but I'm not sure. What do you think? Do you think B?
No, I'm thinking A. Just, I mean, if I were to personally put it, because I tried Hellblade and I thought it was okay. And I think if I gave it a proper go, I'd probably love it. But like, I never finished it. I think I was playing other things at the time that took my attention away. I would personally put it in B, but looking at the studio from just from a bird's eye view, so to speak, and just what they've done, and I can appreciate the game. Not from my perspective. I think they're an A studio. I think they're an A-tier studio. And just looking at what Hellblade 2 is shaping up to be from what they've shown is just phenomenal as well. So I just think that their graph, their little line graph, is only heading up, right?
That's right. Yeah.
So
much like what Xbox are probably thinking when they acquired them in 2018, like this is a studio that with the right care could do some pretty special things.
Exactly.
So I'm with you. And then just a quick mention, they're obviously working on Project Mara as well, which was announced, I think, 2 years ago, which is like a hyper-realistic horror game. We don't know really anything about it other than we've had a few like in-engine screenshots which look like real life. Okay, let's move on. The next up, we've got Initiative. I think it's kind of pointless to make any speculation about this and put them in the unknown tier.
Yes, yeah.
You know, we know they've had we know they're working on Perfect Dark. We know that they've got about 70, 80, 90 employees. And, you know, there was the whole blunder with, you know, on a job post, it said they're working on a quadruple A game, which everybody like still says, even though it was like a typo, because that got deleted. And we know that there has been a bit of controversy around people leaving that studio because it's been difficult to agree on game direction, and short-term contracts fucking everything up again. So just not enough data. So for now.
I agree. Yeah, they're exciting, but
yes,
you just can't. Yeah, it's just one of those things.
Yeah, absolutely. Okay, next up, really interesting one. Undead Labs.
Yeah,
really
this is tough. This one. There's so much potential, I think, and we've always said there is so much potential with State of Decay, but the fact is that it's always fallen short, right?
Yeah, exactly.
I just think, and that's how you got to rate it. We haven't seen anything of State of Decay 3, anything definitive at least.
But they're also just slow as well. Sorry, go on.
Yeah. I was about to say, we know like a lot more money's being pumped into the third game and stuff like that now.
Yeah.
But yeah, I agree. They're just really slow. Yeah, like even the way I know they've done some updates to State of Decay 2. They gave it like that big Juggernaut update or something like that.
Yeah, that's right.
But that took a long time. I think that was like over a year, right? They took to release that, and I did think they improved on a lot of things.
I think it's longer, to be honest, but
it could have been longer, yeah. But and sure, they improved on a lot of things. But a game like that, no one's going to be sitting on that and holding their breath and still wanting to play that far down the line. They just
I think like you said, so founded in 2009, made State of Decay in 2013, and then State of Decay 2 in 2018. The project wasn't that big to warrant 5 years of development. Maybe it went through troubles, and State of Decay 2 did release a bit quite buggy for like a Xbox first party studio game.
Very buggy.
So Undead Labs feel to me like, and this is going to sound a bit harsh, but feel like a indie studio like masquerading as a AAA studio. Do you know what I mean?
I can agree with that.
Xbox is like pumping a lot of money because they see a lot of promise, like we all do with this studio, and they're like this unique, this very like niche area of like survival, like zombie action kind of game, like strategy. But they just they've never even managed to get it to great. They've got good. They've never just managed to get... And the fact that State of Decay 2 is a step back from State of Decay 1 in some regards is just really disappointing. Because we even did try to play this game for a bit, and you play it and you get into it and you're actually like, wow, there's a lot of like layered systems here. I think Undead Labs are very good at making interesting systems. It's everything else which is just a problem. Like, doesn't look good graphically, doesn't perform well. Like, there are compromises with netcode, you were tethered, weren't you?
The co-op is scuffed.
The shooting was like not all that great. Like, the enemy variety was just like kind of boring and played
the same as what you see in every other zombie
exactly
game.
So I think honestly I think they're gonna have to be a C tier for me.
Agreed.
We're all that's the thing, everybody's rooting for Undead Labs to have that knockout like big like multiplayer survivor based zombie game that looks good and plays well. Like, it's there, like you can visualize it and that game works, but they just don't seem to be able to get it out yet. So
for the love of God, just make your game like, just do it like Minecraft style, where you just like you got like a seeded world that you both play in, and it kind of shares it for both of you. Because there was like that issue where I could just spend 3 hours playing the game with you, but if it's in your world, I basically just come out with nothing, and it's just like, oh, do you want to just do the same again on my world, or should I just wait till you come back on later and just hop back in? It's just, I don't know. It's just scuffed co-op. Don't like it.
Exactly. And it was so, I remember it was so exciting when they announced that co-op was being added to State of Decay 2. Like, I was properly excited because I was like, you saw the gameplay and you're like, oh, this is not very graphically impressive, but it doesn't really, that, State of Decay, whatever.
Yeah.
What a perfect like kind of game for co-op. But it just was just like whatever. It ruins everything, that sort of half-assed co-op. So it's a real shame. Big potential in Undead Labs. Like what you're doing, like where your head's at, but please nail the next one, or just move on from State of Decay. Like, otherwise, I'm going to enter a State of Decay.
Yeah. Or your studio will enter a State of Decay.
Yeah, that too. It's a good point, actually. That's probably a conversation for another time, but I reckon Xbox are probably looking at them like, you need to nail this one. Okay, next up, Compulsion Games. Also founded in 2009, saying, Undead Labs. Yes, Compulsion Games. Haven't made much, not much data. Really similar to Undead Labs, I feel, in terms of tier placement here, simply because say pretty much like the same yearly releases as well. Founded 2009, 2013 they released Contrast, which came out to middling 60s sort of scores, and then 2018 We Happy Few, which was high 60s, but you know, we all know how that went. Thoughts?
Again, I think We Happy Few was just a bit of a I don't want to say scuffed launch, but it was they launched it when it wasn't really ready, right? And they launched it into like a preview and stuff like that. So I guess you can, like, you know, I don't want to crunch on them too hard. You know, technically they did release it in preview. They didn't do a Sea of Thieves and we're like, here's the game, there's nothing in it. They were just like, this is preview, we're working on it, you know. So like they made the public very aware of it, and I think it's better now. I think We Happy Few is generally, like, they've made a lot of changes to it, both in content and the way it plays and performance. So
yeah, I've heard the same as well, and I think, you know, the biggest problem that people had with Compulsion was that the trailers they showed off for it looked very interesting and really good, and then obviously it ended up being like an open world survival game, and everyone was like, "What is this? Like, what is this?
It's a bit
this isn't what you showed me." So
I think we C tier it up.
I think so too. It's just like Undead Labs. They're like right on that cusp, because everybody agrees that the ideas that Contrast and We Happy Few had were really good, but just didn't manage to like execute. And we've had Phil Spencer personally call out Compulsion as a studio that we, the fans, should not sleep on, because he's so excited about what they've been working on. And I remember a while back in an interview, one of the devs said that what they're working on is by far the most exciting thing that they've ever done or ever seen. And we also know it's an unannounced third-person action-adventure game. So, fingers crossed for you boys over at Compulsion, but unfortunately you're in C for me right now. Next up, Obsidian. Let's do it.
Okay.
They're teetering that edge of A+ and S.
They're definitely top of A or kind of bottom of S right now. But
I mean, you're just looking at those scores there.
I feel like if we put Coalition in S, we gotta put this in S too.
I think you're probably right. You know, even back to like their first games with Star Wars: Knights of the Old Republic to like Pillars of Eternity is not for me, but that game, like, I know people love that franchise. South Park: Stick of Truth, and like the sheer variety here, like hello, Fallout New Vegas, Alpha Protocol, Grounded, like what's going on?
They all their projects are vastly different from the previous ones. So they're clearly a very multi-talented studio that can kind of make anything, which makes them really exciting, because you can basically just kind of give them a project and they could probably do it pretty well, right? I just think, I'm thinking S.
I think S. We like Outer Worlds was I really like that. In my head, that game has aged very, very well. I've even thought about booting it up a couple of times. And because I know a lot of people have like gone sour on the game a little bit over time, which I feel is a bit unfair. Like it's reasonably safe, but it's just executed very, very well, you know. In a world where we haven't had a Bethesda, you know, like a classical Bethesda RPG sort of game in a long, long time. I just was a big fan. And we obviously know Outer Worlds 2 is in development. We know Josh Sawyer, who's one of the lead devs on a smaller team there, is working on what's it? Is that Pentiment? You know, so there's a lot of code names floating around. We have spoken about this before, but allegedly we might see that at the showcase. Maybe if we're lucky, that might even get a release date for this year. But it's like a smaller detective-y type game, supposedly, like in the vein of Disco Elysium. But it's like good pedigree of devs there. Avowed is on the way. I think I've already said that. And Grounded is obviously still in development as well, which continues to be very good. So
yeah,
even looking at that upcoming list, like that's very strong. So I agree.
Yeah, they're very strong. Yeah,
Obsidian is one of Xbox's best studios and best acquisitions that they could have made.
Yeah, agreed.
Lovely. Let's move on. InXile. InXile has a lot of heritage. With Brian Fargo heading the studio, they used to, who has been involved with the original Fallout. Back when it was an isometric game. Their biggest success is the Wasteland series, which is Fallout but funny.
Yeah.
And with the recent Wasteland 3, they absolutely knocked it out of the park with that. That game got critical acclaim. It had this very XCOM style feeling. They learned a lot from other genres or other games in the same adjacent genres. I've actually reinstalled Wasteland because my phone is now working again, and it's like a really good game I can play on my Kishi, for remote play or whatever.
Yeah.
And we know that they're working on an unannounced third-person action AAA RPG, and that it's got steampunk vibes. That's all we know. It's very secretive.
Okay.
I think, judging by the timeline, it's unlikely we see anything this year. It's not impossible. We might see a CGI trailer this year. But a lot of the information that we have indicates that this game is going to be releasing late 2023, 2024. Probably 24 to be safe.
Yeah.
So,
yeah.
What do you think? What do you think about InXile?
Yeah, like you said, they got a lot of pedigree to them. But I mean, when you look at the list and you look at how everything's sort of reviewed and done, their only actual hit is Wasteland. They've kind of semi-missed with all their other projects. Like, they've done okay.
Bard's Tale has a surprisingly big following. I know the scores there aren't too high, like low 70s, but Bard's Tale has like quite a cult following. But yeah, I see what you're saying. If you're looking at the numbers alone, we're looking at like mid 80s as the highest, and then like down to like mid 60s as the lowest.
Yeah, and I think everyone can agree if when you bring up this studio, the first thing that comes to mind is Wasteland. It is kind of what they're known for. They're a little bit like just a one-hit wonder, I guess, or a one series wonder. A little bit. Like, I don't want to shit on their other games too much because they're okay, but they're kind of mid, right? They're like mid with a cult following, like you said with Bard's Tale. So I'm thinking it's a high B or an A, and I'm not sure. I'm thinking maybe alongside like Rare and stuff like that with B. Like top of B.
Yeah, I think I'm inclined to agree. Even though Wasteland as a series is probably like worthy enough to put it in
that is an A. That is an A. Yeah.
It's all the unknowns and it's everything else that makes it just bit
drags
hard.
It to a really high B. But...
Yeah, and I think just like some of the others we've said here, another one. This is going to be a very, very interesting studio to see how this tier list changes over the years because everybody's very excited about their next project. As I say, the studio has a big pedigree, and this is one of those studios that's going to benefit the most from Xbox's backing. So yeah, let's go high B.
Okay, yeah, I'm putting it right at the top of B.
Yeah, I agree. Okay.
Double Fine.
I can already see people looking at this tier list and getting mad. Okay. Yep. Double Fine.
I think our only really controversial one is 343. I think everything else is pretty well placed.
I just think Xbox have a lot of controversial studios, like Rare, Mojang. Like, it just depends who you're asking. But I mean,
I
the
guess
fun of tier lists.
Yeah, because I guess Rare people would be like, "Oh my god, Rare have done so much in the past. How is that not like A to S?" But it's just like, it's based on the sort of era you grew up and what we're playing. Like, this is a very personal, I guess, tier list as well. It's like a reflection on us and the overall scores, right?
So, yeah, but it's also like that's the thing, we're trying to rate it like going forward, like, I guess. So whatever. All right, Double Fine. Double Fine. We all know Double Fine, founded in 2000. Tim Schafer's the head, who was involved with LucasArts back in the day. Has made a lot of cult classics. Psychonauts is a cult classic. Grim Fandango is a cult classic. Massive Chalice is known, but not on the same level as the other two. Costume Quest, a lot of people know that name. Day of the Tentacle. I think Double Fine are very good, and obviously,
Double Fine are good.
Obviously, they have a really unique style of their writing team is just excellent, and Psychonauts 2 was Game of the Year contender, and you could really feel the injection of budget into that game that came from Xbox. As the first game that they've had in that kind of environment, they knocked it out of the park with Psychonauts 2. So the Double Fine for me are kind of like Ninja Theory, where we said the line graph is kind of going up, except they started a little bit higher because I think they've been a bit more consistent, and they always have. Even if their scores are lower on some of these games, like The Cave, Broken Age, even Costume Quest, they always occupy a very unique niche that's going to appeal to someone.
And it's interesting that with all their uniqueness and everything, like just how wacky they kind of are with their writing and style and storytelling, they still maintain pretty damn high scores across the board for pretty much every project they've had. It's been like high 70s to 80s, with the occasional one a little bit lower. So I think you can't put this. I don't think you can put them any lower than an A. They're definitely an A, I think.
My thought is A+, but I'm asking myself the question, why aren't they S? And I'm struggling to come up with a good answer.
Well, I think looking forward from like Psychonauts 2 onwards and be like, okay, like let's work from Psychonauts 2 onwards, and let's say they maintain that same standard going on with this money injection they've now got from Xbox. I think they are an S tier studio, but everything else that's followed before it, with some relatively, don't want to say misses, but some mid games and stuff like that. They're an A. But like you said, I think coming back to this tier list later with some more releases under the Xbox umbrella, I think they're probably going to move to an S tier.
Yeah, I think that's probably a fair assessment. We know they're working on an untitled online multiplayer game, and another studio has been teased by insiders, but we don't really know anything about that. So we know that Tim Schafer said he doesn't want to keep doing sequels. I don't know if we'll ever get Psychonauts 3. This studio just likes being creative and wacky, and they always have Jack Black in their big games, which is automatic, like top of the tier list.
Definitely.
I'm in agreement, Tim. I think A+ is quite sensible. Somewhere in A. I think A+ is probably fair. I think their consistency puts them above Ninja Theory. So I think top of
A. My A is currently Double Fine, Ninja Theory, then 343.
Yeah. Okay, great. Next up, we've got World's Edge. Now, this is
great math.
This is this is a studio that we do not have much experience with as a pair, because they're all PC games, and we do not play on personal computers. We play on Xboxes. Nonetheless, the pedigree here is quite good. This is a studio that was founded in 2019, as a first party studio for Xbox to make Age of Empires. They are World's Edge are to Age of Empires as 343 are to Halo, Coalition are to Gears, etc., etc. Playground are to Forza Horizon. So we had Age of Empires 2 Definitive Edition in 2019 with a Metascore of 84. We had Age of Empires 3 Definitive Edition in 2020 with a Metascore of 75. And then we had the brand new shiny Age of Empires 4 in 2021 with a Metascore of 81. If you are a podcast listener, you will know that I regularly whine about these not coming to console. So hopefully that happens one day, but I just wanted to plug that once more. This is a good studio, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, this is an A-tier studio.
I think pulling off a 80 or above new installment in the Age of Empires franchise is quite impressive.
Yeah, agreed.
Yeah, I don't think we have much else to add than this. We don't have enough experience. I think this is just straight up an A.
Yeah, I just think you just lob it in A-tier. They're a good studio. They haven't made a bad game.
Yeah, fair enough.
Lob it in there.
I've lobbed it right in, buddy. Okay, next up, we have Bethesda Game Studios.
Oh my god.
I mean, you're thinking...
Is there a triple mega S tier?
Yeah. Oh, having said that, though...
Blades and 76 really bring him down.
Why does Elder Scrolls Blades have a 42?
Yeah. It's
on the
just, I feel like people are so harsh on it. Like, it is just what it is. It's like a crappy little game that you just pull out and just play when you got like a spare 5 minutes or something. But I think it's just because it has like an Elder Scrolls like name to it. I think people would just, I don't know. They just hated it. They just shat on it. Yeah,
I mean, that is fine. I mean, do mobile games ever review that well? I mean, I don't know. I feel like I'm not trying to make excuses.
I don't know, Dec. Have you played our sponsor for this podcast, Raid Shadow Legends?
I wish. Like, if you're out there, we will sponsor the crap out of you. Or Manscaped, or HelloFresh. I watch other YouTubers. I know what they get sponsored by. Come here. Anyway, Fallout 76 is the obvious blunder here. And Fallout Shelter, I mean, those reviews are like low 60s, mid 60s. However, Fallout Shelter has quite a lot of love for it.
Yeah.
So
I think people actually quite like Fallout Shelter. I think it's got a nice little fan base now. Yeah.
I don't see how we can put Bethesda Game Studios in anything other than S tier. Sorry.
Yeah. I mean, it's just Skyrim is one of the best games of all time. Oblivion was also fantastic. Fallout
all
3,
of the Elder Scrolls games. Do you know what I mean?
Like, I mean, Fallout 3 is a masterpiece. Fallout 4 didn't quite hit as hard, but it was still a fantastic game. 76 is, it would review a lot higher than the scores it's getting right now. They've improved on that a lot. Yeah. And then future projects, like we'll see probably Starfield gameplay next at the upcoming showcase. Yeah. But that game's setting up to probably be a banger, right? Fingers crossed, touch wood, please don't disappoint me. Yeah. You just chuck them in S, man. Like they really are an S tier studio.
I agree, man. I think it's they're teetering. Like if Starfield comes out and it's a 70s game, I'm bringing Bethesda Game Studios down to an A. Like because it's like that whole Mojang thing. Like you can't keep living off the success of Skyrim. I mean, I know, to be fair, I know they had Fallout 4 in 2015, which reviewed well. It was like maybe not an S tier game to a lot of people. I thought it was very good, but I mean, I do agree. I wouldn't, on Fallout 4's merit alone, I wouldn't put Bethesda Game Studios in S. So, but when you start factoring everything in, Todd is still there. The whole team really is still there for the most part. Yeah, I think at the moment they're a low S, and that really is teetering with Starfield.
Yes, agreed.
Okay. Next up, Zenimax Online Studios. This is, as we know, Bethesda's MMO studio who have only released Elder Scrolls Online. They're quite a big team with 383 employees, roughly, around 400. And Elder Scrolls Online released to mid scores. Well, good scores. Low 70s. Yeah. It eventually got ported to consoles, which is quite the undertaking because consoles don't get MMOs offered and generally has found a good player base on those consoles as well. They've obviously kept supporting it. They've been very good with their service updates, expansions, new characters, new classes. I don't know what the hardcore community thinks of ESO, but from an outside perspective, it's good. And there is a player base out there who will never play anything else. We try and play it every now and then, and we just can't because the combat is just not good. It's one of those MMOs that really suffers because the combat is just not good, and it almost makes it feel worse in the sense that you're playing, with an Elder Scrolls skin on, and you're like, how is this worse combat than Skyrim? Like, do you know what I mean? So there's a lot to love about what Zenimax Online do with this game. Personally, we can't ever seem to click with it, but I have a lot of respect for this game and this studio.
Yeah, I mean, it's one of the biggest MMOs on the planet, right? And it has been for years and years and years and years and years. And it gets fantastic content updates consistently that basically add almost an entirely new game on top of the original package. Yeah. I'm thinking, oh God, I don't know. I want to put them in A, just because, like I said, it is one of the biggest MMOs on the planet and has been for such a long time. But I'm thinking realistically, I'm thinking probably top of B, right? I don't know. What are you thinking?
I'm with you. I think A is fair. Definitely they're on the cusp, because I think the bar, like their quality bar of stuff, isn't always the highest, even though they do a lot of creative and they do a lot. Like I said, the service element I think is very, very good. But when you play it, there is a jankiness to it still. Maybe that's just a console thing. But like you said, not many MMOs can come out and survive against the titans like World of Warcraft. Even with the Elder Scrolls IP, I think they are an A studio. I think they're at the very bottom of A. But it's hard to not be coloured by our opinions of the game, because I know some people out there will be like, "Are you joking? Like, Elder Scrolls is amazing." Like, because right now people might be reviewing it at an 80 or an 85, in which case that puts it comfortably in A. But
yeah, exactly. Yeah, they are A tier. Yeah, I think
A tier. And we know we've spoken a lot about what Zenimax Online might be working on for their next studio, and we spoke about like a Starfield MMO, which seems ridiculous. We spoke about like a Star Wars type of thing, like a Mando style thing. This is all like heavy speculation stuff still, but I think they could definitely nail. I'm interested to see what they do with a new IP, I suppose, is where I'm going with that.
Yeah,
excellent. id Software up next. Joe, I hadn't even put any thought into it, so that really caught me off guard, but I'm finding it hard to disagree.
They make sick games. They make such good games.
Yeah, you're so right. Yeah, you're so right.
It is just they're fantastic. Every single Doom, like the Dooms, like 2016 Doom and Doom Eternal, were just mind-blowingly good. And even their previous Quake, mate. Quake is an absolute cult classic. Everybody loves Quake. That was the arena shooter, first of its kind almost. In that aspect. And even their games that are considered quite mid, like Rage, it's still a really good game.
Yeah. Well, Rage 2 is probably the only mid step, but I don't think they were lead developers. Or maybe they were, because it was done with Avalanche. Because they made Mad Max, didn't they? And everyone was like, "Wow, what a good pairing!" And then Rage 2 came out worse than Rage 1, and everyone was like, "Oh." Yeah. So I don't really know if we can blame it for that, but I think even with that in mind, I think you're absolutely right. They don't make anything under an 8 ever, and the fact that they managed to pull Doom out of the 90s essentially, or the early 2000s, into a reboot and just nail it and really bring back that single player linear shooter. I think that's such an impressive accomplishment, and the fact that they got it to run on the Switch as well probably puts them in triple S tier. So
yeah, exactly. Yeah.
And I will also say that it have gone out their way a few times to optimize for the Series X now that they're like for Xbox consoles. I think maybe all consoles, but specifically, they've already done quite a bit to like optimize for Series X, which I really appreciate. So I'm in agreement. id are an Estes studio. I would put id above Bethesda Game Studios. I know it doesn't matter that much. I'm just looking at what we've got so far, and I think they're that good.
Yeah.
They're just so consistent.
I agree.
Yeah. Okay. Next up, we've got Machine Games, developers of Wolfenstein, essentially. That's it. That's what they do.
They just do Wolfenstein.
New Order came out to low 80s, which is the first one. The Old Blood came out to mid 70s. The new Wolfenstein 2, the new Colossus, came out to high 80s, which I played and it was very good. And then their newest misstep, Youngblood, which came out to high 60s.
Yeah, so they're basically A, S, B in their game releases. So I think you just chuck them in A, right?
I can't feasibly put them in anything else other than an A. Their games are very good. They're generally pretty consistent. And even the thing is, I know Youngblood got like a lot of shit, and I haven't played it, but I've been very tempted to play it. But I really like the idea of moving that into like a co-op space. I know that's not for everyone, but that speaks to me. Even though they did not do it successfully, I think that's I admire the effort. but yeah. For sure.
No, I agree. Yeah, at least they tried something. They didn't just stick to their guns and just release the same thing year on year out. They didn't do a coalition, so to speak.
That's right.
They tried something. Doesn't always hit, but you can still kind of appreciate the effort.
Absolutely. And we know upcoming, they've obviously got Indiana Jones coming, which is going to be quite a big deal. I imagine that's going to be fast tracked. Don't know if we hear about it this year in terms of a CGI trailer. There's also been a lot of up and down speculation this week about whether it will be exclusive or not. Various Xbox insiders, Jess Corden and even Nick over on the Xbox Era podcast as well, have both reported different things, that one saying it will be exclusive, one saying that it won't. So we ultimately don't know, but it's interesting. I think Machine Games is a very interesting choice for this game. Wolfenstein 3's got to be in this pipeline somewhere. And we've also heard rumours of a Quake reboot, which has obviously got, not confirmed, but it's got people very excited.
Yeah.
Makes it a good candidate for an A-tier studio. Okay, Arkane, S-tier. Next up, Tango Gameworks.
No, you're not wrong. I was going to do the same thing I did with id, where you were like, id, S. And I literally just like said it. Yeah, they're S tier, man. Like Arkane are fucking insane.
They just don't miss.
They're so good. Like I'm convinced that Prey would have been one of my favorite games for a very long time. I know I say that not completing it, but that was a personal reason. I got screwed over, and anyone in my boat would have done the same thing. There is nothing more disheartening than getting like 60, I think I was like 70% the way through the game, and then just having your save file just overwritten, gone, poof, dust. That's it. Yeah, and then you have to do that whole thing you've just done again. And I know a lot of people are just like, well, so what New Game Plus is, but like, it's different. It's just different.
It is different. Yeah, because for sure. And I guess maybe if the back half of this year does remain very, very dry, maybe there's a time, because it's got an FPS boost as well, and it plays so much better, man, with FPS boost.
Yeah. From what I played of that game, I loved it so much. Just like the whole design, the whole like story, like being like in like the space shuttle with like these aliens and stuff like that, and all the mechanics that came with it was just so good. So good. I thought it was amazing.
Prey's a game that like I kind of liked when I started, but as I kept playing, enjoyed it more and more. And then even after I finished it, like I found myself thinking about it quite a lot, and I think that game is very, very good. To a degree, I think you could maybe argue that Prey is Arkane's like biggest cultural hit, because for some reason that game, like, nobody played it, but a lot of its praise has come through word of mouth. Not nobody played it, but you know what I mean. It, like all of Arkane's games, for some reason they picked the coolest settings, like a supernatural assassin in like a Victorian ass world, Prey, aliens on a spaceship where you can like buy it, get biomechanics to like augment yourself. people just don't play Arkane games. I don't know why. But nonetheless, Prey has like taken on a form of its own. In that people talk about it a lot. So, and obviously you know, and the audience will know for those who listen to the podcast, I love Dishonored, one of my favorite IPs of all time. And they concluded it with Death of the Outsider. I think they're probably done with that universe for a bit now, but they just didn't miss with any of those games. They're all fantastic. I love being in those worlds. It's hard to say anything bad about Arkane. They made a Game of the Year contender in the form of Deathloop, which is still a timed exclusive. That's maybe the only bad thing. That is a fucking timed exclusive.
But Deathloop was a banger too. They're S tier. I actually think they're. Hang on, what's our S tier looking like?
He's about to say something spicy. He needs to check.
I think they're maybe just below Playground. I think they're our second highest in S tier. If I'm honest.
I'd agree. I'd say they are the best, if not second. Yeah, like Playground and Arkane are very neck and neck.
Yeah.
And then obviously we've got Redfall coming up, which was recently delayed. Shame, but probably needed it. And that game's going to be very interesting. That what was the studio we spoke about earlier? I think it was Playground. That because Redfall is going to be quite a bit of a departure for them. Not a massive one, but in the sense it's like supposedly like quite looty. It's got this unique vibe of like a bit horror-y, vampires, like hero shooter, a co-op, open world. This is like a little bit of a departure from what they usually do. And if they can nail that, that takes them to like hyper premium, like greatest of all time studio level. But if they don't, it would be a shame. I don't know if it would necessarily knock them out of S tier, but I think everybody's hoping Redfall does well, but it's a departure, so we're not sure yet.
Yeah, agreed. Yeah.
Okay, next up, Tango Gameworks, founded in 2010, responsible essentially for The Evil Within 2, and Ghostwire Tokyo most recently. Generally, these games hit quite well, with high 70s for Evil Within 1, low 80s for Evil Within 2, and high 70s for Ghostwire Tokyo. What do we think, Tim?
I think they're a solid A. Solid A.
I think solid A.
I love The Evil Within. I think they're really cool games. And yeah, I don't know. I just thought they did it quite well in terms of sort of blending that action, horror sort of genre together for like modern day. Back in 2017, they made a good story. It was weird. It was funky. I just don't really have anything bad to say about them. And even Ghostwire Tokyo, like, I know it didn't hit quite as hard as people were saying, but again, I think like setting wise, design wise, visually, and in a lot of other aspects, that game does look pretty phenomenal. So yeah.
It's one of those studios that I have very, very little experience with. I know you have a bit more because you've played The Evil Within, but I hear a lot of good chatter about them. And, Ghostwire Tokyo, it's a shame it didn't hit as hard as it did. But I know we all say it, but it's going to be a perfect Games Pass game when that comes.
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay. Into an absolute enigma of a studio here. Alpha Dog Games, which is in the... Alpha Dog are in the Bethesda catalogue, I think. So I'm trying to figure out, because obviously we're getting into ActiBliz territory, and I'm like, who? I think Alpha Dog are Bethesda still. It's like their mobile team.
Okay.
And they have made, don't hold your breath, Wraithborn on mobile.
Whoa.
To a Metascore of 68. And Monstro City Rampage with an exclamation mark in 2017. And that doesn't have a Metascore, so I don't really know what's happening there. It's not off reviews, I guess.
Yeah.
I mean, I honestly don't know if I feel equipped enough to answer this.
I know nothing about them. Yeah.
I think we put Alpha Dog in unknown. Otherwise, I'm just slapping it in like B or A tier based off a 68 Metascore, and I don't really feel like that's fair.
Yeah, I can agree with that. So yeah, it looks like they were acquired by Zenimax Media in 2019, which would put them under the Bethesda umbrella.
Great. Okay. Next up, then, we've got Roundhouse Studios. Roundhouse Studios is a very, very spicy one because they were originally Human Head. We all know they were like, there's been some drama between them and Bethesda in the past. They're obviously part of Bethesda now. Is that right? Yes, that is right. And they developed the original Prey back in the day. Human Head did, who are now Roundhouse, but largely the same team. They then developed Brink, which was like
Poopy.
it. Well, it was a bit, wasn't it? But it wasn't hyper poopy. And also, it very much like it had this as cultural moment, didn't it? It was like a very big zeitgeist where everybody was like excited about Brink, everybody wanted to play Brink, everybody played Brink, and then everyone was sad about Brink and on the brink of insanity. It was buggy.
Nice.
Thanks. So I because I'm even thinking about like the trailers for that game, and I can remember like the, like I can get high off the fumes of nostalgia. I like there was like it had wall running and like parkour, and he had like this character. It was like hero shooter, wasn't it? It was a bit Overwatchy, but like parkour, like urban shooter. It's very cool in concept. Anyway, then they had the Defiance game, which was that TV.
That was hyper poopy.
that was hyper poopy. Yeah. I don't know what The Quiet Man is. Apparently, they helped on development with Dungeon Defenders 2, and then they did a Rune 2, which was just a PC game. I guess I will add that Roundhouse Studios is one of those studios that people are like, please give them a project, because they mostly just support or are given or like contracted to do a game for someone else. Like Brink was their only, and the original Prey was like their only big like independent undertakings, I believe. But their history is spotty, to say the least. Like,
yeah, very.
There's no
very
big
much
hit
so.
here, other than Prey. The original Prey was a big hit. And there's like a lot of there was a Prey 2 in development originally, which there was like a cinematic release for. That looked amazing. Like you asked people about Prey 2 and everyone was like, I can't believe that game didn't get made. It was like a like a cyberpunk bounty hunter kind of game. But it got cancelled in the end because they were acquired by Bethesda, and Bethesda said, nah, you're not doing that.
Yeah.
And they turned Prey into their own thing with Arkane. So not much to go by here, Tim, but what do we think we do based on this history?
I think we chuck them in with Undead Labs and Thingy at C2, I think.
So, yeah, this isn't a complete train wreck of a studio. Like there are some successes. Brink had its moment, didn't really hit, but was full of some nice ideas. Yeah. I think probably low C here. They've got a lot to prove.
Yeah, agreed.
Okay, now we've got Blizzard.
Oh, controversial.
Now, just to be clear, we know this is a controversial studio right now. We're just talking about the output of their games. I'm not.
It's also controversial, just for the fact that they're technically not Xbox yet. But
this is true. And it feels almost a bit reductive to, because Blizzard have like 5 teams that they're just called Blizzard Team 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. I think there's like somewhere between 4 and 6. I can't remember. And they have 4,700 employees. So we're just gonna have to try and draw a line through the middle of the data here and take an average. I, however, don't think Blizzard can realistically go at anything under S.
Yes, yeah. They make the most polished games on the planet.
Yeah. These games come out of the oven just perfectly cooked every time.
Yeah.
Overwatch won Game of the Year back in 2016. Multiplayer games winning Game of the Year is just unheard of. I don't even know if it's ever happened before.
Yeah, agreed.
And really, Overwatch kicked off the whole hero shooter genre, which has now spread into BRs with Apex.
Yeah, got it all started, yeah.
World of Warcraft is obviously still going. Diablo 2 Resurrected was the newest, but I think Vicarious Visions helped out with that. there's just not a game here which is under 85, which is crazy. Like, I'm looking at the catalogue and like 50 to 60% of them are 91 or above. Like, what's that about?
Yeah. I mean, yeah, they're
you?
like they're a top of their studio, regardless of the inner
Hearthstone.
workings.
Yeah.
They make fantastic games.
And we know that Diablo Immortal, the mobile game, is coming out reasonably soon, and that the impressions for that have generally been pretty positive. We know that Diablo 4 is in the works, and we've seen gameplay of that game, and that game looks very impressive. We know that Overwatch 2 is in development, and that's looking a bit questionable, but we'll see how that goes. And we know they're working on that unannounced survival IP, which insiders and journalists have heard looks fantastic. Like, internally, everyone's very, very excited about whatever they're doing with that game. And I am as well. Hopefully a multiplayer survival game, like WoW from Blizzard. WoW, very exciting.
Yeah,
S tier for sure.
Yeah. I put them very top of S tier. I've actually given them the slight edge over Arkane.
Really, you think? So you still think you'd still put Playground at the top, but you think Blizzard would go above Arkane?
It's so tough. I mean, no. Personally speaking, I would probably. Jesus, I'd probably do Blizzard, Arkane, Playground if it was me.
Wow.
And it's so close to being Arkane, Blizzard, Playground.
Yeah,
because I prefer Arkane's like games and what they make, in terms of like. Yeah, just storytelling,
immersive sim stuff.
World, all that sort of stuff. I prefer that sort of game and that sort of studio. So yeah.
Okay, fair enough. Well, I've got them like in the top 3 on my one.
Same.
I think that's probably fair. As much as it's like, there's something in the back of your mind that you're like, oh, I probably shouldn't do this because Bobby Kotick is a fucking prick. But, that doesn't represent the 4,700 devs there that make these like absolutely fabulous games. So
exactly.
That's fine. Okay, Infinity Ward is next. Doesn't need much explaining, do they? Call of Duty. Obviously, Call of Duty has...
God, Modern Warfare 2 got 94.
I know, it's fucked up, isn't it? It's fucked up.
Oh, God.
In my opinion.
Modern Warfare 3 got 88. I thought Modern Warfare 3 was pretty bad.
Well, they...
88?
They played them very safe.
I guess.
Yeah, they just played them very, very safe and, don't fix what ain't broken. So, generally, review scores didn't budge.
Yeah.
So, Infinity Ward... They've had a recent dip in with the last 3 or 4 entries. Call of Duty Ghost back in 2013 was probably their biggest. I think culturally the biggest blunder, even though it reviewed 1 point higher than Infinite Warfare in 2016, which was 77, as Ghost was 78. Modern Warfare Remake came out to an 80. Everybody quite liked that game. We even, I think, fell into the hype and played it a little bit, and it did play quite well. Can't argue.
Yeah.
And then Warzone came out reasonably well, set up, obviously, the foundations for what is still Warzone today. Even though it didn't review as well as I assumed it would have done. 79 here is the score I'm looking at.
You still can't argue it's one of the biggest shooters in the world, though. It's one of the most played shooters in the world currently, and probably will be for some time.
Yeah, that's right. I suppose I think there's a lot of potential at Infinity Ward, but realistically, they're not coming off anything other than Call of Duty. Not that that's a bad thing. It just it's obviously not appealing to us. If you think that a lot of the talent pool here is shared from what's at Respawn, it gives you an idea of like, because Respawn are like parallel universe Infinity Ward. Acquired by EA, making Star Wars third-person action adventure games, making hero shooter BRs, you know what I mean, and having success with all of those things. Whereas Infinity Ward are just Call of Duty.
Call of Duty.
I mean, I think Infinity Ward are probably an A-tier studio, right? They're reasonably consistent. They'll make a COD game, and the COD game will sell lots, and it will never be bad. It will be COD.
Yeah, agreed.
But there was actually on our news for today. Modern Warfare 2 was announced this week, wasn't it? With a release date in like October or something, which a lot of people are very excited for. I think Modern Warfare 2 is really overrated, but that's just me.
Yeah,
I understand. Like, it's sitting there with the number 94 next to it. So, can't argue with that.
I didn't realise it got that high.
But man, oh man, would it be exciting to have one of these teams come off card, whether it's Infinity Ward or it's Raven, who is also our next studio.
Oh,
I know. Look at that segue. Okay, Raven have a long history. They have been responsible for some big games. Back in the day, Hexen was a big one, which is kind of like medieval Doom, with like magic and staffs and swords and maces and stuff. Star Wars Jedi Knight 2, Marvel Ultimate Alliance, and then a contributor to the Call of Duty franchise. Singularity, and the criticism here of Activision is that in the last 7 years-ish, they've just become a COD support studio, which is really annoying when they have genuinely had good success. Marvel Ultimate Alliance, I loved that game when I was younger. 82.
Yeah.
Quake 4, 81. X-Men Legends, Rise of Apocalypse, 84. Star Wars Jedi Knight, 81. These are all... There's a pretty... When they're doing their own thing, they have a pretty good track record.
Yeah, it's all 80s. Yeah.
Yeah. So Singularity, I remember that. I never played it, but I remember seeing the ads for that and being quite excited by it. It got 77, pretty respectable. X-Men Origins of Wolverine. Oh, I remember that game. That was... I just played that with my mates on his... What did I play it on? It's on like the GameCube? It's not even listed as on a GameCube game.
No. Probably played it on his Wii, right? Or PS2.
Maybe I'm thinking of a different Wolverine game.
Yeah,
Nonetheless,
maybe.
I think, I have played some of these games historically. I think it makes it quite hard to rate because we're rating them essentially off quite an old catalogue of games that they made.
Yeah.
But I think this is an A-tier studio, right?
Yeah. I think they're A tier above Infinity Ward, personally.
Yeah, right.
Just from the sheer fact that they just make different games to Call of Duty, they've showed their versatility.
Yeah.
So, and they've reviewed pretty well. So
can't disagree with that. Lovely. Then we've got Treyarch. We all know Treyarch. Call of Duty games. They have in the past. They did for a while have the Spider-Man license. In case y'all didn't know that.
Ultimate Spider-Man was a banger.
Yeah, 77. Spider-Man 2, 83. Did they do the one where he was like all dark and like Web of Shadows? Did they get 69? I thought that game did well. That makes me sad.
I think it was reviewed. I think it was liked more by the public than reviewers.
Yeah, okay.
It has quite a cult following.
They did a 007 game, Quantum of Solace, back in day, 2008 at 65. And then we had World of Wars. I think Treyarch is responsible for generally my favorite COD franchise. Black Ops was my favorite I like COD franchise. I preferred it to Modern Warfare, just always did. A lot of people loved World at War as well. I liked World at War, but probably I think it's probably like the same for Modern Warfare franchise for me. But I stopped playing COD after we got to Black Ops 3 and 4, so I never really got that far. But
yeah,
talented studio. I think
so.
I think A tier. I mean, there's part of me that wants to put them in bottom of S, but it's just really hard when it's just COD. But I mean, I know that doesn't detract from the quality of the games. I think A. Gotta be A, right?
Yeah, I think A. Yeah. I think A, but again, they're above both Raven and Infinity Ward. They're above Tango and Zenimax and all of that, and they're probably just below Machine Games, maybe.
Yeah, I just don't know if I would put them above Raven, just because Raven has done so much. But nonetheless, yeah, they're very much they're like middle of the pack. A Treyarch a bit higher than the rest of the Activision suite.
Yeah.
Okay, then next up we've got Beenox. Beenox is such a weird name.
Yeah, it's a very weird.
Okay, so we've got, again, because Activision had the Spider-Man license for a bit, there's some Spider-Man games here in the form of The Amazing Spider-Man 2, with a 57. Skylanders, Skylanders Swap Force with an 89, hello!
Jesus! I always remember we were mocking, taking the piss out of Skylanders. I didn't realize it's such a banger.
Yeah, Spider-Man Shattered Dimensions, I remember that game, actually, you got to play like multiverse Spider-Man.
Yeah.
The B-movie game, can't forget about that. Guitar Hero Smash Hits. And then most recently, Crash Team Racing Nitro Fueled, which was actually a bot that game. Pretty good. And then Call of Duty Modern Warfare 2 Campaign Remastered. What? Oh, did they... What? I'm very confused. Why is that here? Is that a thing?
I don't know. I have no idea. I don't know. That might be a typo.
I mean, maybe they did. I mean, it's feasible that they could have remastered it. Like, it's not the same as like a remake that Infinity Ward are doing. But it only came out to a 71, and apparently that came out with it came out last gen, 2020. No, that's not even last. I'm very that entry is really putting my brain into a pretzel. I'm not understanding what that means.
Look it up.
Please, I can't take this much longer.
Okay, yeah, so it looks like it was just a campaign remaster just by itself. Yeah, back in 2020.
Okay, I don't remember that ever happening.
Just upgraded textures and stuff like that.
Did it come with the Modern Warfare 1 game? It's not important. It doesn't matter, does it?
Yeah, regardless, it was done by Beenox, but yeah, they basically just cleaned up the textures and heightened the resolution and released that again in 2020.
Yeah. Okay. So. Tim, I think Beenox are a low A tier.
Yeah.
Versatile again. You know, they've had big success with Skylanders, big success with Crash Team Racing, a miss here and there with The Amazing Spider-Man 2.
But generally, they're mid-70s to the occasional mid-80, high 80 games. So yeah, you got to chuck them in A tier.
Yeah.
Like they even out at an A, I think.
I agree. Okay. So what we'll do is, because we've got, so I said this at the beginning of the episode, but there are two studios that we don't have on our tier list, so I'm going to have to add this in post, and those two studios are Vicarious Visions, which is really weird because they're a well-known studio, and Digital Legends, which I think is just a mobile team that ActiBliz owns. So we're going to come back to those two at the end of the tier list, but for now we'll keep going with what we've got left on the screen.
Okay.
So next up, I've got High Moon Studios.
Yeah, High Moon. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Great. High Moon. I know very little about High Moon. I've got to be honest. It's a big blind spot. All I can tell from the list here is that they've been responsible for making Transformers games for in the early teens, and Deadpool, a Deadpool game. I remember the Deadpool game.
Yeah, I remember it being a bit meh.
I remember it being a bit meh as well. Which is a damn shame because someone could really nail a Deadpool game.
Insomniac.
You can't just give them all the Marvel IPs. You got to share them. You got to share the love.
But they absolutely would.
Makes funny games. Oh, Double Fine could do a Deadpool game. I think they need a bit of help with the combat and making that actually work, but they could write a Deadpool game.
Yeah, they could write a Deadpool game. Yeah, 100%.
Anyway, getting into fan fiction territory again. But
yeah.
Do you know what? They didn't make Darkspark, or maybe which one did we call Darkspark? Was it Transformers Dark of the Moon?
Yeah, no. It was Transformers Darkspark. It's literally called Darkspark.
Oh, really? And they didn't make that?
Yeah, Rides of the Darkspark. Yeah.
Oh God, that's still a joke. That is an ongoing joke for like 15 years.
Oh yeah, we still do it. Who made it? Let's have a look. It just says publisher, developers, Edge of Reality, and Way Forward.
Okay. What year was that? Does it have a year there before we close it?
It was 2014.
Okay, so after that the IP went to someone else. Like,
they ripped Dark Transformers away from High Moon and then made Rise of Darkspark.
Yeah. So it's weird because High Moon like haven't done all that much. They've been responsible for some fairly big licensed games and again been spotty. Fall of Cybertron was like an 8. War for Cybertron was like 77. Dark of the Moon was 59. Big yikes. And Deadpool's 63.
Yeah.
And Deadpool was in 2013 and they haven't done a game since. This leads me to believe that they've just been supporting on COD. Since 2013, which is a tragedy.
Considering Transformers are like shooting games, and so is Deadpool and stuff like that. So yeah, I wouldn't be surprised. Yeah,
I think High Moon go B. I think low B, right? Yeah. There's some successes here. It's hard to pull off a successful licensed game, and they've done that a few times, and they've missed a few times. I'd like to see more from the studio.
Yeah, agreed.
Where do we put Legends? We just have that big. Okay, King. As you know, it's not just ActiBliz; it's ActiBliz King. That's like actually what they're called. 2,000 employees. This studio is going to be an absolute moneymaker for Xbox.
Yeah,
and not a single person who buys an Xbox is going to give a solitary shit about King. But Xbox probably view this as one of the biggest motivators for their purchase of ActiBliz King. If you don't know, responsible for Candy Crush. And holy shit, their game list is so big. Are you seeing this?
Yeah, it's pretty large.
What's going on? Bubble Saga, Bubble Witch Saga, Papa Pear Saga, Diamond Digger Saga, Alpha Betty Saga, Scrubby Dubby Saga. What is going on? Shuffle Cats.
My God.
Yeah. Farm heroes. Imagine being a hero on a farm.
Yeah.
Okay. So like in terms of like reception of the games here, a lot of them aren't reviewed because they're like mobile games and they don't get reviewed, but they're like high 60s, some of them low 70s, some of them low 80s. Crash Bandicoot,
I think they're
the run. Yeah, go on.
I think they're B. Like, regardless of how much money they're gonna fucking rake in for us, the games they make are just they're quality mobile games, I guess, but
I mean, most of them are just match 3 games, which is the biggest genre on the planet, which is like hurts to think about. This is kind of like a Mojang pick to me because Candy Crush is obviously like insane, but like, does it continue to bring that much value to an Xbox customer? I mean, probably not.
Yeah, exactly.
But I guess we need to respect that Xbox are like embracing mobile gaming a bit more, and in that respect, I don't know. I guess it's a bit safe, maybe though. Like it's just a bit safe. Like I think these are all just match 3 clones. Yeah, let's go B. I think they probably are top of B in the sense that they do it well. You know, even if it is like monetization farming. Like match 3 games, you know, there's nothing particularly creative or interesting about it, but you know they do what they do well. So yeah, sure.
Yeah. Okay.
Sledgehammer Games came on to help with Call of Duty with Activision, and they started that by supporting with Modern Warfare 3, and then had their own Call of Duty with Advanced Warfare, which is the game that actually pushed me away from the franchise forever. Never came back after that, like properly.
Forever. I don't think it deserves an 83. It literally just bought like monetization and pay to win to Call of Duty. Like I view that game as so toxic.
I just hated the movement on it as well.
Like you could literally buy packs and boxes that would get you guns that had more damage.
Yeah,
and like better, like literally, come on, like it's such a toxic game. Like it did not deserve an 83. And the campaign has a fucking Kevin Spacey in it. We all know Kevin Spacey.
Although everybody does say the campaign of that game is fantastic.
Yeah, it was a bit of a bop. Yeah.
So I guess that is some credit. Then they had Call of Duty World War II in 2017, and then recent blunder with Vanguard last year. Although it's still going, like COD. I don't know. It's those weird ones because when people say COD fails, it doesn't really fail, does it? Like it still breaks records.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly.
For engagement of players. I don't know. I think Sledgehammer's another one of those COD support studios that's just like, get them off, get them on something else. I think they're capable of doing more. Like, they had a good campaign with Advanced Warfare. I don't know how World War II campaign landed. It's just a bit safe, and it's, hard to judge, but I think Sledgehammer are probably, for me, a B. They're a tier below Infinity Ward and Treyarch, aren't they?
And Treyarch and Raven. Yeah, I think they're kind of the worst out of the COD support studios and the COD developers that have had their own games too. Yeah, I would agree with that.
I mean, do we think B is even fair? Because I'm looking at, again, I don't want to get lost in this too much, but I'm looking at like Undead Labs, Compulsion, and Roundhouse. Sledgehammer Games really better than? I mean, maybe. I guess the games still come out like reasonably polished.
Yeah.
Yeah, maybe low B.
Yeah, I'd say bottom B. I think.
Yeah.
I think InXile, Rare, Mojang, High Moon, they're all better.
Yeah. Okay. Then we got Toys for Bob, everyone's favourite Activision-Blizzard studio, which is actually they're actually pretty good. So I'm not even moving. They've done a lot of licensed stuff. Back in the 2000s, they did 102 Dalmatians, Madagascar, some Tony Hawk games. Did a lot of Skylanders work, which, by the way, Skylanders trapped team at 90 on Metacritic.
Jesus.
Yep. Lots of Skylander stuff. So I suppose who was the other studio that we said helped? Beenox?
Did Skylander stuff?
Yeah.
I think so.
Mm-hmm. Okay. And Toys for Bob have also been responsible for bringing back some really popular Activision IPs in the form of Crash Bandicoot and the Insane Trilogy, Spyro Reignited Trilogy, and then a new entry in Crash Bandicoot 4 It's About Time. And those previous three respectively got a 78, 83, and 86. That's pretty impressive, to be honest. It's hard to bring these games back. I think this is an A-tier studio. I think Toys for Bob is A-tier. And I think, even more so, I think a lot of people are eyeing up Toys for Bob to take up some of the PG-friendly IPs that Xbox has, like Banjo-Kazooie, for example. I think this is a very capable studio to do something like that.
Yeah, I could see that. I would agree with A.
Brilliant. We put them in B, put them in A. And then, the final one we've got on our list before I have to do anything in post is Xbox Game Studios Publishing. This is the team responsible for going out and making deals with other studios, getting those third-party exclusives, and generally, in recent years, what we've had is from 2020 onwards, Ori, and then Ori Will of the Wisps is obviously the most recent one with a Metascore of 90. Obviously, we all know Will of the Wisps was an absolute banger. Tell Me Why from Don't Nod with a Metascore of 78. Microsoft Flight Simulator from Asobo with a 92. And then Crossfire X with a 40.
That's bad.
So before this, if we think prior to this, we had games like Recore, and there's another one that I cannot remember right this second. Generally, Xbox Game Studios has been very disappointing, to be honest. They've had a couple of hits here and there, but there's just, if you look over at some of the publishing deals that PlayStation have had in the last decade, there's like Bloodborne, Spider-Man was, and then they acquired Insomniac. The Spider-Man was a publishing agreement. Again, there's more that I can't pinpoint, but they had some really fantastic ones. Whereas Xbox Game Studios Publishing has not only been inconsistent, it's been very slow. There just like hasn't been that many. Like the last one was like the ones upcoming that we know of is Contraband, which sounds very cool. We don't know enough about it, but like before that, it was Ori, and that was like 2 years ago.
Yeah, a long time ago.
I suppose maybe Flight Simulator, but that came out on PC a bit earlier. So, and then obviously Crossfire X. So, I'm not rating publishing very high at the moment. I feel like they should really be doing better, even though they do have a lot of studios. Like, they need to.
You can't deny that the Oris were bangers, and Flight Simulator is obviously a banger as well. Like, you really can't understate those were pretty large hits.
Yeah, I do. Yeah, it's hard for me because it's just that Ori is such a small slice of the pie. Because Will of the Wisps is one of my favorite games, like full stop. Tell Me Why was pretty. I don't usually enjoy those types of games. I really like that. And Flight Simulator is obviously, banger. So there are some diamonds in the rough there, but it's just a shame I can't remember the previous games because I know there was some other stuff that either didn't work. Scalebound fizzled out, obviously, with whoever's fault that is. It's regardless. The outcome to me is that I was excited and then it didn't happen. There are other ones I can't remember. But yeah, I mean, maybe low B.
Okay.
I would have said low B.
I can get on board with that.
I think publishing have been really disappointing. I'd be tempted to put them in C, which breaks my heart because, like I said, Will of the Wisps is fantastic. But even with Crossfire X, man, like, what the fuck's that? Like, what is that?
Yeah.
What are you doing?
Abysmal, yeah. I would have just redacted myself from it.
Like, I don't know. I don't even know if we've put InXile there. We've put Rare there. I'd be happy for publishing in C. I'm really being disappointed with the publishing deals other than 1 or 2 games in the last decade that have been good.
Yeah, I guess when you spread it over the time period that it is, it's pretty poor, isn't it? Yeah. All right, let's do C. I'm
going to put C. Because I look over...
You make a valid point.
Yeah, it's just I look over like Undead Labs. And so I don't think it's fair to put Undead Labs underneath like publishing. Yeah, I think C. Okay, so we've reached the end of our list, which is good. We've got a nice normal distribution here. That's what you like to see, like bell curve. So the final 2 ones that we don't have on the list that I'm going to have to add in post, so there's not going to be any fancy graphic. I really apologise. It's probably just going to be a bit of text. maybe a photo if I'm feeling fancy. So the first one is, so I'm just going to have to scroll back up to my notes to find the...
Vicarious, wasn't it?
Vicarious Visions, which is a very, very weird... a mission on this tier maker to me because they're such a beloved studio that people are really rooting to get back and make their own stuff again because they've become yet another Call of Duty support studio under Activision-Blizzard. So just as a snapshot going back to the early 2000s, we had Crash Nitro Kart, X2 Wolverine's Revenge, Finding Nemo, Jet Set Radio, lots of licensed games. This is like back in Game Boy days on Game Boys. Shark Tale, Shrek 2, Spider-Man 3 as we move into sort of the late 2000s.
Did you say Tony Hawk's? They've done a few Tony Hawk's.
Yep, that's right. Yep, they're pretty much solely responsible for Guitar Hero franchise, I'm pretty sure.
Yeah.
A big support studio as well. So like Skylanders is here too. And in recent years, lots of Skylander stuff. Support with Destiny 2. I think bringing it to PC was their biggest support there. Crash Bandicoot Insane Trilogy, again, supporting, Tony Hawk's Pro Skater 1 and 2, which was received very, very well. And then most recently, Diablo 2 Resurrected, which, again, was received very, very well.
Yeah. I think they're pretty good. Yeah, I think they're an A studio. Yeah. Very versatile. They've worked on so many things. They've had their finger in almost every single pie at one point. I think they're pretty good. I think they're obviously quite talented.
A with the potential to move up A, depending on what happens, what they do next. But yeah, just like everyone else, we're all rooting for the studio to do their own thing because they've helped with a lot of games. Like there's a lot of experience there, clearly.
Yeah.
Okay, and then everyone's most recognized studio from Activision-Blizzard, Digital Legends, and the photo I've got here is just some army dude pointing at me, and it's quite frightening. It's quite intimidating.
Yeah, reminds me of Captain Quark a little
bit. Yeah. So this is a mobile studio, long history of games, like quite a lot, with some examples being on iOS and Android, Battlefield Bad Company 2. Split Second on iOS. Split Second was a banger, by the way.
Yeah. I remember playing that with you. Yeah, it's a really good game.
That's a port to iOS.
Yeah.
What does that say? Me Coach Basketball, Me Coach Tennis, The Respawnables, After Pulse, and then Respawnables Heroes. I don't know what any of these games are. I'm really sorry. This might even just be an unknown tier for me.
Yeah, I'm going to be honest. It's hard because one, it's these mobile games don't really get reviewed, and two, we don't really know the studio. So the only one we really know that stands out is Split Second, right? Which was a bit of fun.
But yeah, I don't know how well the company was. Too. I don't know how good the ports are on these things. That's the problem.
Yeah. Let's chuck it in unknown. We just don't have enough information on them personally.
Yeah, that's fine. Well, Tim, we did it.
We did do it. Only took us 2 hours.
Yeah, Christ, that was. I see why people speed through these now, because that was quite lengthy. And people were probably like, "Oh, this will be a fun video for me to watch over the next 10 minutes while I cook dinner." 2 hours later, it was still going.
Only if you're slow cooking some fucking dinner.
Yeah. Crikey. Okay, let's. I'm like debating whether or not we should like cover any of the stuff. I'll tell you what. I'll pick out just like one or two of the big stories.
Yeah.
So I suppose we're on the news segment now, everyone. So if like you've skipped the tier list or you were just here for the tier list, now's your time to leave or stay, respectively. Either way, cheers. You're the best. And you know what? While you're here, hit the like button, subscribe, go follow me on Twitter, us on Twitter.
Me? It's just you. That's
and we will continue to give you very exciting, fun times. Where do I start? Because let's just go to the big thing, which really was a leak or like an exclusive report from Windows Central saying that Xbox Keystone, which we spoke about a couple of weeks back, you might remember, and we speculated on that new bit of hardware and what it might be, is a cloud gaming streaming stick currently undergoing further iteration at Microsoft. And essentially the report says that they have shifted their idea on what this stick might be, and it's gone back and forth a few times of whether it's a stick or a puck or, it's not important, but like the shape of it, whatever. They've gone back and forth a few times on what they want it to be. We don't know what that necessarily means, but they're reviewing their idea on what this is. Like, if it's like HDMI, plug it into your TV, or it's like can run through another input. I don't know. Is it purely cloud streaming? Yeah, right, USB-C. So it's undergoing it. It is real. That's ultimately the takeaway. This streaming stick is real. They, much like with everything Xbox has been doing, they want to bring it to you. They don't want you to have to go to it. And I think the understanding is that part of the reason for this ongoing iteration is that smart TVs are now a thing.
Yeah.
And with a lot of these, like, what's the adoption rate? Could we just make an Xbox app that can feed straight into the smart TVs? So where are you at with this idea of a stick? Now that this is like pretty much solid confirmation that a streaming stick is real, is this sort of thing useful? Like if it's like 20 quid, would you pick it up, take it around with you? Like in case you went somewhere, what do you think?
Yeah, I think ultimately it does just come down to price point. I think something like this does kind of, it does have a place, right? To just be able to just kind of plug and play on anything theoretically. It is quite interesting. The point you said is like, could you just bake it into an app? You probably can. And this does seem like an unnecessary piece of hardware. But yeah, I feel like if it had a decent price point, I feel like it's something I could pick up.
Excellent.
I do think so. Yeah.
Oh, sorry. It's just occurred to me that I'm still recording my screen, so I'm just going to And there we go. Okay, that's all fine. Lovely. That's good. So the other thing was that there was a PlayStation State of Play announced for next week. Came out of nowhere. State of Play, just do this now. They're just like, by the way, we're doing this. Which and they said on the blog post that they're going to be focusing on third-party partners and PSVR 2 stuff. So unlikely that there's a God of War in here. What my head is saying, because companies like to do like squash maneuvers, don't they? I think they do a show now, get the VR stuff out the way and the third-party stuff, and then they have their showcase at the end of June to squash Xbox in the middle and try and soak up the new cycle, where they obviously show off God of War and all their other stuff that they've got, probably Last of Us 2 factions, and some other secret stuff, because PlayStation didn't have a proper appearance last year, so they're sitting on stuff. And yeah, big PSVR 2 presence. I reckon we see Final Fantasy. Yeah.
You think so?
I think so. Yeah, well, they've got the timed exclusivity on it, don't they? So
that would be pretty cool to see Final Fantasy Part 2. Yeah. Or Final Fantasy 16. Yeah, you talk about 7 Remake Part 2 or 16? What
I was talking about 16, but it's possible that they could both be there.
Yeah, that would be cool. I'd love to see more. To be honest, I don't know. I think I'd like to see more. I think I'd prefer, if given the choice, to have some more info on 16. Personally. But yeah, that would be awesome. Yeah, I think I'm going to tune in and watch that, so that'll be good fun.
Brilliant. Okay. Yeah, I agree. I think that will be that'll be a good show for them. That'll just be the start of them ramping up for the rest of the quote unquote E3 season. And the only thing that comes to mind is possibly the Knights of the Old Republic remake. That's obviously something they're partnering with for a year's timed exclusivity. Reckon we might see some more of that.
Yeah, definitely.
Lovely. Okay, so the final thing, final two small things, I suppose, is that there was a bit of news about Xbox turning down a relationship with Marvel in 2014. And this comes from the book, The Ultimate History of Video Games. Sorry, I don't know who the author is, but it's like a recent book, presumably with a primary author and lots of interviews and stuff in it. But yeah, the ultimate story here is that Xbox and PlayStation were both pinged about working on some Marvel games, and Microsoft's strategy was to focus on their own IP. Obviously, we live in a world of retrospect, and we can say, hello?
Yeah.
Like, in 2014...
Big mess.
Yeah, because that was, like, man, they must have been shaking their head, because then come 2016, they cancelled... Lionhead got closed. Scalebound got cancelled. We had, AA games coming out not very well, whether that was Recore, like, not doing as well as it should have done, and generally just a real slow first-party output, and I don't know. It's weird that there is another universe out there where Xbox could have been working with Marvel, but in all honesty, like, Insomniac, you couldn't pick a better studio and like, I don't know if that would have still happened under Microsoft. I think this was honestly the best, for at least Spider-Man, this was the best outcome for Marvel games to be for those Spider-Man games.
Yeah, I'd agree. Yeah, there's no studio that would do it better than Insomniac, and you can also argue the point, and like you said, back in 2014 when this happened, it probably was quite a logical decision to not go through with it, right? No one can see into the future, and yeah, I don't think we were in the healthiest point in terms of finances and stuff like that. So it was a large gamble, right, for something that. But yeah, no, I agree. At least for Insomniac, and we'll wait and see with Wolverine too. But yeah, Spider-Man couldn't have been done by any other studio as well as that.
Yeah, and it's just like we also just saw PlayStation continuing. I mean, that's really changing rapidly now, with supposedly PlayStation having like 2 live service games coming out this year or this fiscal year, like supposedly. But like PlayStation were very much focused on trying to occupy that niche back then with a third-person action-adventure single-player game, whereas Xbox were kind of looking to expand into games as a service. Not that that's necessarily like inherently a bad thing, but I think for Marvel to break through into like public, popular gaming, they needed to be something like what they spat out with Spider-Man. It needed to be that open world, swinging around the city, not, team shooter where Spider-Man whips headshots with his web, and like stuff like
a
that.
rail shooter.
That's just not, and I can't help but think that at that time, Xbox would have focused on that. They still do focus on that, but they're a bit more rounded now. They're trying to do a bit of everything. So honestly, I think this was the best outcome, and I can't complain. PlayStation have killed it throughout the PS4 generation, so
agreed.
That's how it is. And the very final thing that we'll talk about then today, Tim, was just a bit of drama. Just wanted to end on a bit of drama.
Nice.
Twitter drama. The best type of drama from the bird. So it was, the whole saga was absolutely insane, Tim. So we had two journalists that I quite like. Very good, to be honest. Post after the delays, so it was this week, and posted on Twitter saying, I'm actually going to cancel my Games Pass subscription for the first time. There's just not that much there for me, and without those big hitters coming this year, I'm going to be wasting my money.
Yeah,
and caused a lot of anger. People were like, firstly, why are you announcing this? Why are you announcing this to us? And then other people were like, oh yeah, well, you're wrong because have you tried this, and it created this whole back and forth. Obviously, firstly, just to address that, I think that, you
can see it from their point. Yeah,
it's plausible.
Absolutely,
definitely. There's a lot of indie darlings in there. There are still some AAA big games. Guardians of the Galaxy is a fantastic get. Tunic's still in there. It's Back for Blood still in there. Games Pass is very, very good, but there is a clear hole that is not being filled right now, and that hole is X-Party's first-party AAA games. And if that's what you had come to Games Pass for, that's part of the promise of Games Pass, you're not getting that at the moment. So can't blame you at all. Nonetheless, it created a big bit of controversy. Yeah. And then, because this was two journalists said this. Two journalists. That's it. So not really the end of the world. And then Kotaku hopped on the kind of controversy train and published an article. And the article said, after years of hype, the Xbox Games Pass burnout is finally here. What does that mean? What does that mean and why? But literally because they saw the arguments going on, they were like, we can farm clicks. Boy. Get the get the farming equipment ready. Anyway, so that happened, and everyone was like, what is the point in this? And the official Xbox Games Pass Twitter clapped back with, tell me you only limit yourself to AAA games without telling me you limit yourself to only AAA games. Because clearly that was the whole argument, that Starfield and Redfall were missing, so you only want to play Games Pass for AAA games, even though there's a big variety of AA and indies in there. Yeah, so that became this whole back and forth, and then because Games Pass did that, InXile chipped in. InXile had, whoever does their Twitter are like absolute meme lords. They posted a golden ratio on the tweet, on the screenshot of the tweet. It was so weird because obviously Kotaku got ratioed hard in terms of the likes. Yeah, and it was just this whole thing, man. And then other people got involved, and they were like, well, I don't think the official Xbox Games Pass Twitter should be shaming people for only liking AAA games. And it's like, they're just having fun with it, man. Like, don't.
Yeah, exactly. Don't take everything so literally or personally,
Yeah. And that's literally the takeaway for the whole saga. If people hadn't taken it so personally that some people felt that Games Pass wasn't value for them at the moment, then they'd be fine. If Kotaku hadn't taken it so personally that there was so much value to farm out of this controversy, we'd be fine. And it just goes round and round in circles. It's the outrage cycle.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, it's pretty funny though.
Yeah, it's pretty funny.
It's just stuff just immediately, just petrol just gets poured on the smallest spark in Twitter. It's crazy.
Yeah, no, it is. It is absolutely mental. Yeah. And I'm just gonna speed run through these little tiny bits just because You can tell me if you've got anything that you want to add. But obviously, we had the Halo update. Was it with Entrenched? I've been playing that a lot. Weapon jamming's being fixed. Skill jumps have been added back. Last Spartan Standing. Last Spartan Standing has opened up to all BTB maps. Jerry Hook, the design director, has left V343. It's dead. Yep, absolutely dead.
Can we change our tier list?
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, Halo Infinite unknown. We're going to put it in the unknown category. And he followed this up saying, this wasn't like this isn't a thing. I just am ready to move on. He's been on Halo for 10 years. He's been on it for a long time. I can't remember the exact number. There are PlayStation TV shows being developed that was announced this week. God of War, Horizon, and Gran Turismo. Gran Turismo TV show. What the fuck?
Okay.
It's like Cars, like Disney's Cars and Pixar's Cars.
Weird.
Finally, Star Wars Jedi Fallen Order 2 was announced, named Star Wars Survivor.
Nice.
Anything to add to any of that? Because I just wanted to speed through it.
No, I mean they're all pretty cool announcements. I've heard of most of them. Didn't hear about the Jedi Fallen Order 2 announcements. That's really cool because that game was a banger, and I'm glad it's getting a sequel. So yeah, that's cool.
Great.
And yeah, no, that's about it. No, nothing too much to add there. It's all just pretty cool, short, snappy news, right? So
yeah, short, snappy news. That's what we do. Cool. Well, I mean, we're gonna wrap it up there, guys. This was obviously a very long video. We've wanted to do a tier list for a long time, and hopefully, I want to do this every now and then to just see how we're getting on. I think this will be really interesting to revisit after the showcase at some point in the future. Hopefully you enjoyed it. Let us know in the comments if you did. We'll be back next week for our official QRP prediction show, Xbox Bethesda showcase predictions.
Oh, that's something to subscribe for.
That's something to subscribe for.
Yeah. If you're not subscribing right now, then I don't know what you're doing.
Yeah. If I was you, I would hit the notifications bell. That's what I would do if I was you. But, I'm obviously not in your head, so I can't make you do that.
I'd also send money to this account number.
And maybe a car or something. That would be cool too. Mine's in the garage at the moment, so kind of need a car right now. But that's fine. Maybe some food as well, actually, if you fancy it. Some some ribeye steaks. That'd be good. But other than that, guys, thank you so much. We'll catch you in the next episode of QRP. Bye.
Oh, God.
Why does it do that? Why is it doing that?